How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my week 4 score predictions video where we're going to go through all the games that take place for this week for the NFL, week 4. Can't believe it's already week 4. With the exception of the Thursday night game, I made a video, just about that game yesterday. As I'm recording this, it's Friday, so obviously that game's passed. But I made a video before that game, just talking about that game. Kind of went a bit how I expected, but I'll talk about that a bit more in my recap video. But just dive straight in here. If I can advance my PowerPoint, there we go. Okay, so yeah, this was the Thursday night game. As I mentioned, it's pretty close to my score prediction. It was 23-20 as a final. Figured Seahawks would kind of control it, which they did. They were dominating. The Cardinals kind of hanging around, got some momentum, 2 straight touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. Then Darnold and company, got down the field. Jason Myers, the field goal. A pretty good game. As I just mentioned, I'll talk about this a bit more in my recap game, but that was my score prediction. It was pretty close. Pretty close. Okay, so first game is Sunday morning, 9:30, at least my time, Eastern time, out on the East Coast. Vikings and Steelers in Ireland. So this is an interesting game. I'm pretty confident with the I'm pretty confident with the Vikings. I'm sort of not at the same time. I think this game can go either way, but I'm fairly confident with the Vikings. I think the Vikings defense is going to be what wins them this game. I think the Steelers defense plays a good game too. They've been off the first 2 weeks. That was a big talking point around the league. And then, last week you can say they played well, but as I talked about in my week 3 recap video and my Patriots recap video, I think we played phenomenal on offense, and then the Steelers just got a bit lucky and fortunate, you can say, with the turnovers. Their defense, I don't think, played that great last week. Besides, obviously, the turnovers are a thing. So you can't say, besides the turnovers, but if you take the turnovers away, we moved the ball up and down the field literally the entire game outside of the first 2 drives. But I think they get back on track in this game. I think they play a good game, give the Steelers a chance in this one. I definitely think this is a low scoring, although I also thought that last week with the Vikings Bengals, then we saw what happened there with the 2 defensive touchdowns that immediately upped the scoring, and the Vikings defense put out of its mind. I don't think they play quite at that level and force as many turnovers. Bengals also had 5. So both the Steelers and Vikings, had forced 5 turnovers last week, which is insane. At least I know we had 5. I'm pretty sure the Bengals had 5. Not 100% sure with that though. But yeah, I think Vikings defense is going to be what wins in this game. We saw Rodgers kind of had trouble last year against the Brian Flores defense. And, that was with the Jets, more of a dysfunctional. Well, they weren't super dysfunctional at that point. It was still early on. They still nearly had a chance at the end. Rodgers just lead him down the field and threw a pick to my old guy from the Patriots, Stephon Gilmore, 19 DPOY, just in case anyone forgot about that. Defensive Player of the Year in 2019. But I think the Vikings defense causes issues for Rodgers and company. We saw the first week the Steelers offense looked great. And then since then, it's just kind of been like meh, like mid average. I think the Vikings defense takes advantage of that. They play a really good game, maybe force a turnover or two, but I think they'll be forcing a lot of punts, getting the ball back for their offense. Because I mentioned, I think the Steelers defense gets back on track. I just trust the Vikings offense a bit more in this one. I don't think Carson Wentz goes crazy, but I think, he'll put up a decent stat line. Maybe Jordan Mason gets a big run or two. I don't think I can't talk. I don't think the Vikings defense will, or their offense rather, will be doing too much in this game, but I think they're just going to do enough to get the job done compared to the Steelers offense. The Steelers win. I feel fairly confident their defense is going to keep it within reach. I just think their offense is going to have to do a bit better than I'm expecting. Maybe get a touchdown to the field goal. That'll help. So, something like that. But I'm pretty confident with the Vikings defense to help get the job done. Their offense just does enough. I'm going to go with the Vikings. We're favored by 3, so I've been covering the spread. I think I might just honestly do money line, but I think if they do win, it'll be by 3 or more. So I don't know, but I'm gonna roll the Vikings to win this one, 2016. Chargers Giants. This is a bit of a tough one because you immediately look, you look at this matchup initially and say, all right, well, the Chargers should win in a blowout. If Russell Wilson was playing this game, I think the Chargers would win at least by 3 scores. However, the what's the phrase I'm looking for here? The wrinkle, or I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say. The wrinkle in the equation here. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know where the hell I just came up with that one. But is Jackson Dart starting for the Giants? Now, I can see one of two scenarios. I can see that being a complete disaster and the Giants really get nothing going on offense. The Chargers defense really suffocates Dart and company. Or I could also see, especially being at home, I could see Dart, providing a bit of a momentum boost, a bit of a flare, and the Giants offense gets moving a bit, especially because from the Chargers perspective, they have no film to base it off of. The only time Jackson Dart has played, outside of a couple trick play snaps, was in the preseason for the Giants. The Chargers really don't have much film, pro film at least, on Jackson Dart. So maybe the Giants are going to have a bit of a different offense, some more options, some keepers, things like that, control the Chargers off. I could see the Giants. That's going to be the Giants. I don't think, as crazy as this might be to say, I wouldn't be shocked at the Giants one. I would be a bit surprised, but I wouldn't be beyond shocked. If they do win, I think they're. By the way, this is the game I really think that the Giants defensive line might, look like the defensive line we expected to this season. The Chargers offensive line's been pretty good, but maybe this is the game. My gut's just telling me that the Giants defensive line causes some havoc. Maybe missing Rashawn Slater finally is really evident in this game. Maybe the Chargers offense struggles a bit by that. So the Giants defense plays good, keeps it a relatively low scoring. The offense gets a big burst of momentum from Jackson Dart. That could be the Giants' key to winning the game. And again, I say that, but I really think I would probably say it's like a 50-50 shot that either the Chargers just blow the doors off the Giants and Jackson Dart, it's just a disastrous debut. I could see that. But I think it will be relatively close. The Chargers are kind of in control through most of the game, then they kind of pull away late. I could see that. They're favored by 6 on the road. They absolutely could cover that spread. I have them covering it. I have them winning by 11, 27-16. So, I think maybe early on there'll be a couple drives or throughout the game, big play, Jackson Dart, get the fans into it. Nice, exciting play. But then the Chargers defense kind of settles in. They're really good at adjusting on the spot, so look out for that for the Chargers. This, again, could be a disaster, throwing Jackson Dart in there against arguably, the top defense in the league, arguably the best coach defense in the league. I think the Chargers offense does it, I don't think they light it up and score 30 plus, but I think they'll, be playing at the same level they had the first couple weeks of the season. I've been putting up 27. I'm pretty confident with the Chargers, but it would not shock me if the Giants pulled it off. I'd be a bit surprised, but I'm going to go with the Chargers here, 27-16. But again, they could blow the doors off the Giants, but it'll be exciting to see how Jackson Dart does. But I get the Chargers 27-16. Panthers and then my beloved Patriots. So I'm honestly a bit surprised at how many people I see taking the Panthers here. And I understand the logic where both teams are 1-2. The Panthers obviously looked extremely impressive last week. They beat the Falcons 30-0, which most people didn't think the Panthers were going to win. Let alone, I don't think anyone expected, even if they picked the Panthers to win 30-0 and play as good as they did. And then versus my team, where we lost and turned it over 5 times. So I can understand the logic, but I am really confident in my team in this game. I think we win it fairly comfortably, honestly. To me, the Panthers, I still don't think are a very great team. Obviously, they played great last week. I think it was just a great performance. But I don't know if that's going to – obviously, I don't think they're going to play that well every week. But I don't know if they're going to be able to, take that and stockpile some wins or good performances off of it. I'm pretty confident in my team. I think we're going to be really pissed off at, last week where, I have to believe the team imagines, I know I personally feel this way, we outplayed the Steelers enough to win by multiple scores and beat ourselves at the turnovers. And so I think we're going to be pissed off we know that we have playoff aspirations and we need to win this game. We get a tough one in Buffalo week 5. I'm going to probably have to imagine we probably drop that game is my logic now. So we'll be 2-3 if we win this. Whereas if we lose and then lose next week, we'll be 1-4. So that's a big hole for us compared to 2-3. So basically, we know this is a big, crucial game. I think we're a better team than the Panthers. We're at home. We're favored by 5.5, which I think that's about right. I could see this game being extremely close. We pulled off at the end, like 2023, 2024, like 23, 27, 24, 27, some score around there. But I think the offense plays really good. The Panthers defense, I don't think is very good. They were awful the first 2 weeks, and then obviously last week they played phenomenal. But our offense since week 2 has been well, and I know it was just 2 weeks ago, but it's been really impressive. And the only thing that stopped us again was us last week. Otherwise, we would have put up, in the high 20s, somewhere around there, you imagine. And I think even though the Steelers defense was struggling going into that game, they certainly are a better defense than the Panthers. So I think we moved the ball very well offensively. Our offense is a good game. I think our defense plays a good game. They looked really good to me last week. Again, we had 5 turnovers, and the defense kept giving us chance after chance to get back in the game. And also, it got announced today that Mike Vrabel announced at his press conference that Terrell Williams, our defensive coordinator, unfortunately has prostate cancer. So obviously, well wishes there. But maybe that lights a spark up for the team. They try to, especially the defense. They try to go out there, win it for Terrell Williams. I don't know. My gut's just telling me we win this game fairly comfortably, but I very well could see it being a close game. If the Panthers win, I think their key to victory is, well, I by no means do I think we're going to turn it over 5 times. I think their defense is, I don't know, they may just carry it over from last week. I just feel pretty confident our offense is going to play well. Their defense is just going to have to try to limit us to like somewhere around 20, I think. And then the offense of the Panthers, I could see maybe their run game gets going a bit. Maybe Bryce Young is a big play, a couple big plays that help them win the game. Their offense just going to have to overperform as well as the team. I'm pretty confident in my team. A lot of people, they're picking the Patriots at they have it being close. And I know this is sort of close, but most people have it as a 1-possession game. But I'm honestly pretty confident with my team in this one. I'm going to go with us to win 31-20, get a big win. And, it's a big game for the Panthers, too. I assume have playoff aspirations, but I don't know. I'm pretty confident in my team here. I'm going to go with us to win 31-20. Browns-Lions, interesting game. So I'm definitely picking the Lions, but the score is kind of the thing that's I'm not too confident on. The Lions are favored by 10. I could not believe actually. As a matter of fact, I'm going to double check I wrote this correctly. These are all the DraftKings lines I'm putting up for the game. So let me double check this. That is obviously a big line. Let's see here. Yep, they're favored by 10. Well, I didn't write it down, Ron. I'm a bit surprised at the line. I mean, I have the Lions covering that. They very well could cover it. I think the way this game plays out is similar to how Browns-Ravens in week 2 played out, where, the Browns defense is kind of keeping it close. Their offense isn't doing too much. And then the Ravens late, put some points up on the board consecutively and start to pull away. That's how I think this game is going to play out. I think the Browns defense is going to play solid for most of it, keep it relatively within reach. The Lions defense, who played phenomenal last week against Lamar and company, 7 sacks, even though they did allow a bunch of points. The Lions defense, I think, keeps the Browns' terrible offense, not doing too much. And then, but relatively low scoring for both teams, and the Lions kind of pull away. They're in control, but it's like the Browns are right there, then they pull away and maybe score a touchdown on back-to-back drives, really take hold of the game. I could see them putting up more than 31, like 34, something like. I know that's only 3 more points, but yeah, I'm pretty confident with the Lions. As far as the line, I like I said, I have the Lions covering, but I probably wouldn't touch that. I usually like to stay away from big lines like this. The Browns, I like to present scenarios, every game why both teams can win. The Browns, I really have a tough time seeing them pulling this off. Obviously no one saw them beating the Packers last week, but that was the Brown. I think going in that game, we assumed, everyone assumed, pretty much everyone assumed the Packers going to win, but we were like, all right, well, the Browns defense can keep it close, but which is what happened. The Browns defense basically won them the game. But the Lions at home, I don't think they're going to kind of fall into the trap of maybe overlooking the Browns like the Packers seem to a bit. Like I said, I do think the Browns defense will play well for a while, so maybe if they can keep it low scoring, the Lions defense, even though it looked good last week, maybe this is kind of a big game for the Browns offense. They kind of click. They've been bad all year. Maybe this is the game they click. Just going to kind of have to be a random good performance from them on both sides of the ball, more so their offense. But I'm pretty confident with the Lions to get a big win here. I had the Lions winning 31-16 in this one. Oh boy. Saints Bills. Well, if you want to bet a free money line, I would be beyond shocked if the Saints won this game. If the Saints somehow win this game, I would be perplexed. I would just have to be like, what the hell just happened? I mean, the Bills, the line went down. The Bills were originally favored by 16.5, which is absolutely ridiculous. Even that line, I have them covering. Now it's down to 14.5. I mean, this just has blowout written all over it. I mean, the Bills are obviously light years ahead of the Saints this season. And the Saints, we expected them to be bad this season, arguably the worst team in the league. And, even though they lost the first 2 weeks, they were two close competitive games that you could argue they could have won. And obviously they came up a bit short. But then last week in Seattle, I think the Saints looked like the team many of us expected them to going into the year. The Bills are the Bills this year. They're always a regular season juggernaut. I will say that their defense, to me, has not played that well, with the exception of week 2. They have not played that well for most of the season. Their offense is obviously top tier offense, Josh Allen and company. But yeah, I like I said, I like to outline a reason why both teams can win. I really have a hard time seeing the Saints win. At least with the Browns, I was just talking about the Browns beating the Packers, upsetting them last week. At least with the Browns, we were like, all right, well, Cleveland's at home, their defense might keep it close. Well, that's not the case the same. I mean, their defense is, decent on paper, and it looked decent the first 2 weeks. And last week was a disaster. But, going against Josh Allen and the Bills offense on the road in Buffalo, I really do not see their defense playing that well. Maybe I did say, though, the Bills defense, I'm not too impressed with it. Maybe the Saints offense pops off this game. If the Saints somehow win, I just think they're going to have to get a bunch of things to go their way, like maybe a muffed punt, fumbles, tip passes that get picked, things like that. Their offense just randomly going to have to go off. It's just going to have to be a game where they get a bunch of things to go their way, I think. But again, I would be beyond shocked if the Bills somehow lost this game. I honestly, even though I'm fairly confident the Bills will win by at least 15, I probably wouldn't touch a spread just to be safe. Again, I usually like to stay away from the big spreads. But, the Bills money line, that's free money, I think. It's not going to pay you much because, they're such big favorites. Josh Allen and company, I think they light the Saints up. I think the Bills defense gets back on track. But, yeah, tough one for the Saints, I think. Going with the Bills here, 100% to win 34-14 in this one. This is probably going to be the game of the week, at least in the the early slot, the 1 p.m. games. Eagles Bucks. I am very back and forth on this game. Now, I will say I feel like I originally had the Eagles, and then I'm like, you know what? I don't like the Eagles. I'm not an Eagles guy at all, even though they'll always hold a special place in my heart for, thank God, preventing the Chiefs from three-peating, and also beating them in week 2. But besides that, I'm not an Eagles fan at all. I don't really like the team at all. I'm kind of a Bucks fan. I'm obviously a Patriots fan. I was obviously a Brady fan. The Bucks, when I first started getting into football, I'm like, I kind of like this team. I think they might be my second favorite team. I like the outfits, um their uniforms rather, the colors. I'm like, I kind of like this team. And then, flash forward a bunch of time later, and then Brady's playing for them. So then they're my second team, my second favorite team already. And then they, are my second favorite team by default because Brady went there. And I still kind of pull for them now. I probably would say they might be my second favorite team. I don't know, probably. But I just got way sidetracked there. But anyway, I originally was picking the Eagles, and I do feel like they are the safer pick. They're favored by 3.5. I figured they might be only favored by 1.5, 2.5. It's 3.5. They very well could cover. They just have to win by 4 to cover that. I would absolutely stay away from the spread. At least for the Eagles and the Bucs. Well, both teams, but obviously the Bucs less risk because they can still lose and cover the spread as underdogs. Yeah, Eagles I think are the safer pick. They honestly probably should win this game with all the Bucs injuries. And do I really see the Bucs starting off 4-0 when they've, you can argue they narrowly are 3-0. Baker's had to be clutch in all three games to get them to 3-0. And the Eagles, they're 3-0 too, but you can argue they're not that impressive of a 3-0 team. They look great in, the second half against the Rams last week. But the reason I'm going with the Bucs is because, a talking point all season, basically up until the last two quarters of football the Eagles have played, is how their offense has been extremely subpar. What's wrong with the offense? And it obviously clicked in the second half. But the Bucs defense, I mean, we saw the past two meetings in the 23 wild card game and then the last year in the regular season. Now, I know AJ Brown missed the wild card game. I'm almost positive he missed the game last week against Tampa, or not last week, last year against Tampa in the regular season too. He's good to go in this game. Now the Bucs are the ones with injuries, but the Bucs defense really limited the Eagles offense, and their offense, the Bucs offense, torched the Eagles defense in both games. I just think my gut is telling me, and the reason why I'm going with the Bucs in this game, and technically an upset being, the home underdog, is because I just think Todd Bowles and the defense have a good game plan for the Eagles offense, and the Eagles offense looks similar to how it did the first, 2 weeks and then the first two quarters of that Rams game. But on the other hand, I could see the Eagles defense playing a really good ball game and limiting the Bucs offense. The Bucs, maybe they get Wirfs back this week. I don't know. Obviously, that would be a boost to them. But if not, they'll be down 3 linemen. Mike Evans is out. Godwin's out. I mean, they're injured beyond. Elijah Cansey's also out. They're injured. Obviously, that's defense, but the Bucs are injured beyond belief. It's going to have to show up at some point, you think. And against an elite Eagles defense, maybe Vic Fangio can exploit that and limit the Bucs offense. Keep it low scoring. I had like a 23, 20 final originally. But I'm like, do I really see the Bucs scoring this many points on the Vic Fangio defense? And with all the injuries. But we saw last year, like I said, the Bucs just completely dominated the Eagles defense for most of the game. They won comfortably the past prior two meetings. They've had their number over the the last 8, like 7-1 or something like that. And the one was week 3 of the 23 season. The Eagles won comfortably, kind of controlled and dominated that game. But yeah, I think the Saquon's kind of limited this game. Maybe he pops off a big run or two. He had a big run in the regular season game last year where it's like, oh boy, the Eagles going to start to come back. Then the Bucs kind of got things, under control again. But I think for the most part, Saquon is kind of contained and limited this game. I say that. My gut's telling me he pops off a big run late to really give the Eagles, control the game and momentum and say, well, that's going to be what wins in the game. But I think passing wise, the Eagles are going to be a bit limited because the Bucs defense is going to be on top of that. And I kind of could see the Bucs just torching the Eagles defense. So what my gut tells me. Oh God! Now that I laid out that Saquon scenario, I honestly think it might be close, and Saquon's going to pop off a big run and win in dramatic fashion. I kind of want to say that, but fuck it. I'm going to stick with the Bucs here to just get the job done. I would absolutely avoid betting on this game because this is extremely hard to predict who's going to win. I honestly think it's a coin flip game. And again, the Eagles, I feel should win with the Bucs injuries. They're more injured than the Eagles are right now. Eagles are the safer pick. I had them originally, and I'm changing to the Bucs. I think they just do enough to get it done. And the Eagles, like I said, their offense, basically their key to winning, that Saquon scenario I just laid out, or in their defense, plays a good ball game, keeps the Bucs relatively limited. And the offense that they can certainly continue to track. They picked up the back half of that Rams game last week. That'll help them win. But like I said, I'm going to go with the Bucs in a razor-thin game here just to get the job done. I had the Bucs 26-23. Can't wait to see how this one plays out. Another good game, Commanders-Falcons. Falcons are favored by 2.5. I believe the Commanders were favored by 1.5, and then it got announced today that both Jay Daniels and Terry McLaurin are out, so obviously that's a boost to the Falcons a bit. I'm still going to pick the Commanders in this game. Mariota, I mentioned in my recap video, every time he's had to play for the Commanders, he has looked very impressive. He's played very well for them. And obviously Terry McLaurin being out is going to hurt them, but I still think they get a good amount of offense in this game. And their defense is playing a bit better than I thought it would this season. And it's playing a Falcons team that just played an abysmal game where they couldn't even get past the 30-yard line of the Panthers, I believe. And they lost 30-0. And so, obviously, I don't think the Falcons' offense is going to play that. But they moved Zach Robinson, their offensive coordinator, from the booth down to the field. They fired their wide receivers coach. So I think the Falcons have been a bit overhyped after that Vikings victory they had week 2. The Falcons could very well win the game. I just think the Commanders are honestly the better team, and they're playing better football right now. Mariota, I don't think is going to be that, bad of a drop off from Jane Daniels to the Commanders in this one. Missing Terry McLaurin, I still think they get a good amount of offense. Maybe this is a big Debo game. I could see that happening. Falcons offense, like I said, I don't think by any means plays as bad as it did last week. I think they get a decent amount of offense in this one. I could see their defense playing really well, maybe similar to how it did, not as good as week 2, but somewhere around there. The Commanders still put up, obviously, more than 6 points that the Vikings did that game. That could be a key to victory for the Falcons. Their defense just steps up, looks similar to how it did week 2. Their offense, looks similar to how it did, you can say week 1, even though outside of the first drive, they honestly didn't do much that game. Very tight game. If the Falcons do win, I think it's going to be because their defense, honestly. Maybe their offense bounces back. But I don't know. Commanders, better team. Better coached, I think. I'm just going to roll with them in this game. Could go either way. I probably wouldn't touch the spread in this one. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Commanders. Coin flip game. Entertaining game nonetheless. Maybe big Debo game, as I said. I'm going to go with Washington to win the game 24-20 here. Titans and Texans. Oh boy. 0-3 versus 0-3. Now, if the Texans lose this game, they should be, in my opinion, they should be in full panic mode. If they lose to this terrible Titans team, something seriously wrong already, more so with the offense, but they really will need to look at making some changes if they lose this game, I think. This Titans team is just bad. The one thing that I'm a bit nervous on for the Texans in this game is Brian Callahan gave up his offensive play calling duties to Bo Hargrave. And, the Raiders offense, when Hargrave was calling plays last season for them, after they moved on from Luke Getsy early in the year, it got a lot better. And, the Titans offense had shown flashes after the first week where it looks solid. So they also played the Texans in Houston last year, and they scored over 30 on them and pulled off that upset with Brian Callahan calling the plays. And Cam Ward has been better than Will Levis last season. So maybe their offense just gets a bit of a boost with the new play calling with Hargrave there. So maybe that's a reason the Titans could win, just a new burst of offense. They have more flashes than downplays. They put up, a decent amount of points. Titans defense, I absolutely think will keep the game relatively close throughout. The Titans get a solid defense. The Texans offense has been a mess this season. The one thing really siding with the Texans, their defense has been phenomenal this season for the most part. The Titans' offensive line's been a mess. I think Cam Ward's going to have a tough time in this game, pressure-wise, staying upright. I'm sure he'll get sacked at least a few times. And that they don't get a bunch of sacks, going to have to get the ball quickly. Pressure's going to really affect them in this one. Texans defense, I think, is going to really help them win the game. My gut's also kind of telling me after all the chatter and criticism of their offense, they kind of get back on track in this game. It looked like they kind of figured something out when they tied it up in that Jags game, and then Collins fumbled it. But then even after that, to tie the game, they went down the field, and then they had that pick. Stroud got hit on the throw. The ball got hit from behind. His arm got hit, one of the two, and got deflected and picked. So that's 3 straight drives where they were moving the ball. So maybe they figured something out, carries over into this game. Sort of like the Panthers, you can say, like after that Cardinals game, where they, figured something out after they were down 24 points, carried it over to the Falcons game the next week. But yeah, pretty confident with the Texans this one. They're favored by 7. I have them winning by 7. I probably wouldn't touch that spread because I could see it being a lot closer, especially division game, new play caller. But for the Titans, but I'm pretty confident with the Texans. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Titans win. But the Texans really, we knew the Titans were going to be bad this year. We expected the Texans to at least compete for the division. Most people thought they were going to win it, including me. I had them at 11-6. I knew I should have did 10-7, but I had them at 11-6, and obviously it's still possible mathematically, but I don't think that's happening at all now. They really need to win this game, the Texans, more than the Titans. But I had them getting the job done 23-16. Could be a close one, though. Oh, hang on. I knew I was going to miss a border here. Let me edit my border for the Colts logo. Okay. There we go. All right. Nothing happened. You didn't see anything. All right. Colts-Rams. This is going to be a really good game. At least it should be on paper. 2 really good teams. Think this will be absolutely close regardless of which team wins. I don't see either team winning by more than 1 score, honestly. Rams are favored by 3.5 at home. I think that's a pretty fair line. I have them winning by 6. I have them winning 26-20. For me, my gut just kind of tells me the Rams defense is going to be what wins in the game. I think their defense is going to really play a good game in this one and kind of limit the Colts offense. But I think the Colts offense is going to have a couple drives where it looks good. Maybe late they're down 2 scores. They get a big drive, cut it to 1. It's like they get the ball back. They might win the game. A scenario like that. I kind of think the Rams offense, I think they play a good game, but, I don't think they light it up, score 30 plus or anything like that. Maybe because, the Colts defense, it obviously looked great the first week. Not so great the second week, and then like decent last week. But the Rams offense, it hasn't been too great for a good portion of this season. It looked great second half of that Titans game and the first half of the Eagles game. Then besides that, it has not looked too great. They moved the ball well, but they get stopped, have to sit up for field goals. I think that's going to be kind of how the game goes to the Rams offense. Colts defense plays a solid game in this one. I just think the Rams defense is going to be, as I said, what wins in the game. If the Colts win, like I said, I do think their defense plays well. The Colts offense is just going to have to do a bit more than I'm expecting them to, which is very possible with how well they've been playing. I didn't think they'd score 40 like they did last week on a solid Titans defense. But yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. I probably wouldn't touch the spread in this game, even though I had the Rams covering, because I think this game could go either way. It should be a really good game. If the Colts win this game, this is by far the best team they've well, maybe not by far, because Denver is a really good team too. At least they should be this season. But if the Colts win this game, I think they're legit. I still think the Colts will be a really solid team, but if they win this game, you might have to start talking. What can they do in the playoffs? No, I don't think they're gonna make the Super Bowl or anything like that. But If they win this game, I think the discussion's going to start being like, okay, the Colts going to, make the playoffs. Who knows what's going to happen when they make it. But I'm going to go with the Rams in this game and win 26-20. Just do enough to get the job done. Defense wins in the game, I think. Should be a tight one, though. Very entertaining game, I think. But Rams 26-20, I think. Jags Niners. This is a really interesting game. Speaking of defense winning games, Robert Sala's defense, I think, has basically won them all 3 games. I think it's going to do it again in this one. Both defenses have actually played good, which, the Niners, I think we all expected them to have a solid defense. The Jags may be a bit of a surprise that how well their defense has played. I think the Jags defense plays a good game in this, which, by the way, Brock Purdy, I think he's expected to be back, is the report I saw earlier. So even though Mac Jones, my old guy from the Patriots, was really solid, bit of a boost that you get your starting quarterback, back in the lineup. But I think the Jags defense plays a solid game this one. I could see it kind of playing out similar to the Seahawks game week 1 for the Niners, where they're moving the ball and then, they turnover kills their drive. I don't think they'll have as many drives like that in this game against the Jags, but I could see, that scenario playing out a similar scenario. I just think, the Niners defense, like I keep saying here, is going to win them the game. The Jags offense, I think, most of this game, I think it's going to struggle, but I think they'll have a couple decent drives where they put points up. Trevor Lawrence, we've seen, he's looked good, then he looks this season. I think this game, he's not going to play that great. But the defense for the Jags keeps them in it. Niners offense, I don't think does too much. But Niners being at home, I think they're the better team. I think they get the better defense. They're going to win, and the better offense. Coaching's better, things like that. Even though the Jags, I think, are a solid coaching staff on their end, too. I'm going to go with the Niners to win this one 23-17. Offense, kind of a meh game, but they get the job done. Niners favored by 3.5. I don't know if a lot of 50-50 games, I usually don't like to touch the spread. I usually, every time I bet, I do like a conservative where I'm pretty confident the team's going to win it, or I'll do an alt spread like +7 for the team I'm confident that's going to win, just in case they lose. I don't think that by any means they're going to lose by more than 7. And then I kind of do like a medium to high risk parlay where I know it's probably not going to hit. This game, I'm probably going to do in like my medium risk where I'm sort of confident with the Niners, but wouldn't be surprised at all if they lost. They have to win by 4 to cover. They very well could. I've been winning by 6, but might stay away from the spread there. Should be a very entertaining game, but Niners defense, my gut tells me they win them this one. Trevor Lawrence in the offense, rough outing. But who knows? We'll have to see. Oh, another good game this week, at least on paper. Ravens-Chiefs. So I had the Ravens winning 27-24. They're favored by 2.5 on the road. Who would have imagined that going into the season? As soon as the Chiefs beat the Giants on Sunday night last week, Monday throughout the day, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, if the Chiefs play as poorly as they did, at least offensively, against the Giants, the Ravens should blow the doors off of them and win by multiple scores. And then the Monday night game happened with Detroit and Baltimore, and I'm like, okay, well, Baltimore's defense 2 out of 3 weeks has looked absolutely abysmal. Looked decent against Cleveland week 2, but the Browns' offense is terrible this season, we know. So I'm like, okay, well, that's a bit concerning because, the Chiefs in the second half against the Giants, it looks like they figured some things out offensively. They played, much like the new Chiefs offense, kind of used to methodically going up the field, taking forever, 10-plus play drives. It looked like that Chiefs offense. And, Chiefs, even though they've been struggling offensively, very well coached. They always put up a decent amount of points against the Ravens, I feel like. So, the Ravens defense playing awful. There's that scenario. I have the Chiefs kind of getting back on track offensively, scoring 24. And their defense usually tends to play Lamar better than most teams, I feel like, which has me a bit nervous. Definitely not as confident in this game after seeing the Monday night game. But the Ravens, even though they're both 1-2, I think everyone would agree the Ravens have looked like the better team, even though both teams have the same record. The Chiefs defense, even though they play Lamar well, like I said, they played well the past 2 weeks. I could kind of see Derrick Henry popping off. He wants to have a good game after all his 3 consecutive fumbles and to open the season, one per game. Could see Lamar's legs making a difference in this one. A big run or two, keeping the play alive, find someone open downfield. A couple plays like that. I could see their defense. I think their defense, the Ravens defense, will make like a big key stop, one or two, maybe like a fourth and short. They stop the Chiefs, something like that. But I don't know. I don't know. This is a really tough one to predict. If the Chiefs win, I think it's going to be because their defense really limits Lamar and company, and their offense has a bunch of drives where the methodical 10+ play drives where they put up points, those types of drives. But Baltimore, like I just said, I think they're playing better ball. And I don't know. I don't know. One of these teams is going to be 1-3, which is kind of crazy, unless they tie. But you can't really predict a tie. This is going to be a tight matchup. I think the Chiefs always get the better of the Ravens. It feels like. I think the only time Lamar, off the top of my head, that he's beaten Mahomes was in the 21 season, which was a crazy game. Lamar on that fourth down, the Ravens went for it and they got it to ice the game, nailed it out from there. But yeah, besides that, the Chiefs always beat the Ravens. This is going to be a very tight, entertaining game, regardless of which team wins. I don't see it being more than one score. I actually do see maybe a very long shot scenario where the Ravens, their defense plays really well. Lamar and company light them up, really have success offensively. Maybe they win 34-20, or maybe even they put up a 40 burger, but I think it will be close. I have a hard time seeing, this game being more than a one score win. If the Chiefs win, I really don't see a scenario where they win by more than one score. But I'm going to go with the Ravens here, 27-24 to cover the spread. Probably wouldn't touch the spread because this game I think is borderline a coin flip. But hopefully the Ravens win because I hate the Chiefs. Go Ravens, 27-24 is my prediction there. Another really hard game to predict, Bears and Raiders. I originally was leaning the Bears, and then I kind of thought about it, and I'm going to go with the Raiders here. I changed my pick, so the Bears probably are going to win the game with that in mind. Absolutely would not touch the spread, 1.5, because I think this game go either way. I don't know. The Raiders, I mean, they've looked bad the past 2 weeks, especially last week. Great opportunity to beat the Commanders, solid team without Jayden Daniels, and they played awful, especially their defense. Their offense, moved the ball at times a bit, put up a decent, respectable amount of points. Their defense played awful last week. The Bears' offense obviously looked phenomenal last week. Their defense played well too, although they got the ball moved on it a bit better than the score indicated, I think. But their defense stepped up. Evenly matched teams, Raiders being at home. I don't know. My gut just kind of tells me to go with the Raiders in this one. Feels like that's the case with Pete Carroll, evenly matched team. Big game, kind of. Really need to win it for crucial game. You got to win to keep obviously not keep the season alive, but the Raiders want to make the playoffs. I think this will be a big game for them to win. They don't want to fall to 1-3. Obviously, the Bears don't either. They have playoff aspirations, I'm sure. But I don't know. I just think the Raiders' defense bounces back. They play a bit better. I think the Bears' offense plays a good game too. I don't think they play nearly as good as they did last week. But I think they play a good game. But I think the Raiders' defense, just does enough. I think their offense is kind of going to be what wins the game. The Bears' defense, very banged up. As I mentioned, they played solid last week. They only allowed 14. But the Cowboys, they had 2 turnovers in the red zone, so that's 2 touchdowns they almost had there. And Lamb went out, their top receiver, obviously, pretty early in the game. And they only had 8 points scored after he went out early in the game. So yeah, I just think the Raiders get back on track. I think their offense maybe is a clutch drive late to give them the lead. I almost said 27-23 because I kind of could see the Bears being up like 23-20 and Geno and company lead a clutch touchdown drive late. honestly, that's kind of what I want to say, but I'll stick with my 24-23 prediction here. Yeah, Razor Thin game would not. Oh my God, the Red Sox won. Let's fucking go. We're in the playoffs, so let's go Red Sox. There we fucking go. We were down 1-3 earlier. Oh my God, we won. We're in the playoffs. Let's go Red Sox. Okay, sorry, got sidetracked there. I got to celebrate after I get this video uploaded. Um, Game can go either way, but I'm gonna slightly get the edge to the Raiders. I think the Bears defense, honestly, I think the Bears defense, I was going to say, makes a couple crucial stops, and it's going to be like, oh my God, they're going to win the game. I think, little bonus prediction, I think the Bears are going to be in control most of this game, and the Raiders late pull together a drive to get them the lead, and they end up holding on to win. Devastating loss to the Bears, big win for the Raiders. That's kind of how I see this game going. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna pick the Raiders to win this game 24-23, but it can go either way. I would definitely not bet on it. But I'm gonna go with the Raiders in this one. Tight game, very entertaining game, 50-50, but I have the Raiders winning by a point here. Sunday Night Football, you get the Packers and Cowboys. So the Packers are favored by 7. I have them covering that. Now, again, 7's kind of a big spread, especially for a road team, in a primetime game. But I had the Packers covered. I had them winning by 17, which might be maybe a bit of a surprise. I feel pretty comfortable, at least that they'll win the game, but I think they'll win this game in a blowout. I mean, the Cowboys defense is just beyond terrible. It's literally one of the worst defenses I think I've seen in my entire life. And what do we know about Matt LaFleur and company? He really knows how to game plan, and they're going to be looking for a bounce back performance. Especially, they got to feel that they gave the game away to the Browns. They're going to be pissed off that they lost that. Packers have kind of owned Dallas in recent memory. Obviously, most of the big games were with Rodgers being there, but just 2 years ago in the 23 season, they blew the doors off them in the wild card round as the 7th seed. But yeah, Matt LaFleur knows how to game plan, especially for a bad defense. They're going to be looking for a bounce back game, and what a great opportunity for them to do it. Sunday Night Football against America's team. At least that's what they say about the Cowboys. Yeah, against the Cowboys Sunday Night Football, I think the Packers offense lights them up. And then the Packers defense has looked phenomenal this season. I honestly think the Cowboys struggle. If they might only have like 13 points, maybe they are like 10 points, and then they get a garbage time touchdown to make it a bit more respectable. That's kind of what I think is going to happen. If the Cowboys win this game, I really do not see their defense playing well. I think if they win, it's going to have to be a shootout, which is really another reason why I don't think they'll win the game, especially down the Lamb. Even if they had a Lamb, I think the Packers would win in a blowout. But if the Cowboys win, they're simply just going to have to drastically overperform how I'm expecting them to, both defense and offense. I'm honestly pretty confident with the Packers here. I'm definitely going to hammer their money line in a parlay. Maybe even the spread, because the spread's big, so that'll be a nice odds boost. But I feel fairly confident they'll cover it. I'm going to go with the Packers to win this game 34-17 in this one. Oh, oopsies. I kind of laid it out, but again, just to give a quick reason why every team can win their game. Bears, I kind of laid it out, but maybe they have they're the lead late and they simply just hold on to it. The defense makes a stop instead of allowing a score, something like that. Their offense overperforms. They get a bunch of ways to win the game, but again, going the Raiders in that one. Okay, moving on. Monday night game. Well, we get 2 of them. Oh boy. Well, this first one should be a barn burner. Jets and Dolphins. Like, what were they possibly thinking putting this as a primetime game? Last year when they did it Monday Night Doubleheader, they had Titans Dolphins, and it was Will Levis got hurt, so it was Mason Rudolph versus Tyler Huntley because Tua was hurt. Like, bruh, who the hell is going to want to watch? I did because I'm a football junkie, but I'm like, what the hell am I doing watching this game? Thankfully, I believe the other game, I want to say it was Chargers Cardinals. That was an entertaining game. that the Cardinals won at the end. So thank God that redeemed it that night a bit. But anyway, I actually think this could be a bit of an entertaining game. The Dolphins are favored by 2.5 in this one. I think they'll cover the spread here. I have their offense getting back on track. It's sort of looked more like the Dolphins offense, that we're used to the last 2 weeks, and it did the first week. Jets defense has been bad this season. At home Monday night, the Dolphins, even though they're 0-3, both teams are 0-3. They have much higher aspirations than the Jets. They know that they absolutely need to win this game for pretty much, not mathematically, but realistically, any chances for the playoffs, or any chance of the playoffs. I think their offense gets back on track. Tua maybe plays a good game in this one. He's getting a lot of shit, a lot of criticism. Tyreek on a deep pass gets open. Waddle, the explosive plays return. And, their defense, I don't think it plays great, but their defense was actually solid second half against the Bills. I think they could cause some issues to the Jets in this one. However, I had the Jets putting up a decent amount of points. I had them putting up 23, and a big reason for that is I think they're going to get the run game going. I think Breece Hall is a big game in this one, and then Fields, it looks like he's going to be back. I think Fields is going to have a good day rushing the football in this one. And that opens up, the play action pass attack. So I think the Jets actually get a decent amount of offense in this game. I honestly could see the Dolphins, putting up maybe 34, and maybe their defense plays better than I'm expecting. They win in a complete blowout. But I'm going to predict this to be sort of a close game. So the Jets offense, plays a bit better than most people might be expecting. I kind of predicted that last week, and it looked like that was dead wrong. But then late, they nearly won the game off the blocked field goal, which, they got a touchdown off their special teams rather than the offense. But still, their offense in the fourth quarter moved the ball decently well. Scored 2 touchdowns. But, yeah, Dolphins at home. They're also wearing I believe, their rivalry uniforms. I forget exactly what they look like, but I guess I'll see Monday. I will look it up. I guess it'll be a surprise to me. We forgot the Cardinals were doing that Thursday night. But yeah, the Jets win this game. Like I said, I kind of laid out a bit of a path, good rushing day for them. Their defense, I think, is going to have to be a bit better than I'm predicting it to. But the Jets could win the game, but I'm pretty confident with the Dolphins in this one. The offense wins them the game. Explosive plays return. Kind of want to honestly predict they score like 34. But I'll say 27-23. Dolphins win this one. The second Monday night game. Now, if Joe Burrow was healthy, this should be an entertaining game, but, this could be a disaster. I don't think by any means it'll be as bad as it was last week for the Bengals, but this is just not an ideal scenario for Jake Browning. Now, Jake Browning, I have the Bengals losing this game, but I think he'll be able to keep the Bengals floating around 500 at least, maybe like a game or two under 500, somewhere around 500. Maybe a game up above 500, depending on their schedule. Relatively around 500 until hopefully Burrow can come back. I don't think Jake Browning is as bad as a lot of people think he is. Obviously, he played bad last week. All the turnovers, the game just quickly got out of hand for the Bengals there. Well, unfortunately for them, I don't think it's going to get too much easier. In Denver, Monday night, Denver on a 2-game losing streak. They, not a must-win mathematically, but, backup quarterback. You get, I think overall probably the better team. And again, Browning instead of Burrow. 2-game losing streak. You obviously don't want to fall to 1-3, especially with 3 consecutive losses. They really, again, not mathematically, but you can argue maybe a must-win for the Bengals or the Broncos in this one. The Bengals defense, it's been a bit better, I think, than it was last season, but I think the Broncos offense has a good amount of success. I have them scoring 30. We've seen they've been so close on a couple deep shots with Knicks. Maybe they hit them in this game. I think their offense really has a good game in this one, Denver's. And then defense, like I was just saying, I don't think it just could be a disaster for Browning and company. Prime time in Denver. I could see the Broncos getting a bunch of pressure on Browning, getting them down a lot, forcing, a lot of pressure and bad decisions. Browning throws a couple picks. They fumbled. I could see that. Um, I don't think their offense is going to do too much Cincy in this game. And again, I don't think their defense is going to play that well. If they do somehow win this game, I think, like I said, I really don't think their defense is going to play that well. Their offense is just going to have to put up numbers to like they do when Burrow's in there, which we saw. They're capable of 2 years ago in a few games when Burrow went down. It's just going to have to be one of those games. But I don't think their offense is going to do too much. I do think it will be relatively close for a bit, then Denver kind of pulls away. They're favored by 7.5, so they get to win by 8 or more to cover. I think they'll cover that, but again, a bit of a large spread there, so I don't know if I would bet that. But Denver should win this game. I had them winning by 14. Very well could win by more than that. But yeah, Bengals on paper, this is just not an ideal matchup for them. Maybe they get some deep shots of Jamar and Higgins. Maybe that could be a key for them winning, but I'm pretty confident with Denver to win the game. I have them winning 30-16. Okay, so that is all. Let me make sure I don't think I missed any, but yep. All right, so I got all the games here. So yeah, I will end the video here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Good luck with your fantasy teams picks. Fantasy team picks. Bets. As I always say, all that good stuff. Good luck with your teams, unless it's a team I'm pulling against, like the Chiefs, for example, as I always do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you get a good week. It looks like a good week of football. Last week was crazy, but this week a lot of good matchups too. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for tuning in, and take it easy, guys.